I give them eternal life, and they will never perish. No one can snatch them out of my hand. My Father who has given them to me is greater than all. No one can snatch them out of my Father's hand. And I and the Father are one. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. So I want to begin this morning with a poem written by a close and dear friend of mine. The poem is called A Chosen Disciple. Their home is dark because the electricity is turned off. This is common here. Dishes of warm food cover the small table, however. This is not common. The candle is lit and placed on a saucer. Its light is appreciated more than before. Droplets of rain hit the tin roof. Tap, tap, tap. A roof that has been eaten by rust and time. The rain comes down harder now. He laughs. He's used to sitting in his home, wet. The sound of rain is soothing. He's dry for now. The candle burns. We gather around the table and eat the meal his mother prepared. It's delicious. She spoon feeds him, and he agrees. It's delicious. He's familiar with suffering and with poverty, but he prays for us Americans who have far more than he will ever know. His story is a sad one, with twists and turns. With pride, he shares anyway, the good and the bad. His speech is slurred and his education minimal. He teaches intellectuals lessons about life and about God's love. A kitten plays around the table. We lean in close to listen. Listen to his praise for God. The candle burns. He cannot hold a pencil. His hands are uncoordinated, but he writes songs. Despite his circumstances, he loves God wholeheartedly, and for God only he writes his songs. Cerebral palsy has crippled him physically, but his spirit is unrestrained. He sits in a wheelchair, his legs and feet crooked and weak, but he stands taller than I do. Humility creeps into the room unannounced, leaving its mark on those who have ears to hear. He is a vessel. God gives him purpose. He is Melvin. Conversation is good. Hearts are changed. His light shines. Cerebral palsy has crippled him physically, but his spirit is unrestrained. Numerous times I've led groups to the Dominican Republic, and part of what we do over there is the people that go are encouraged to kind of follow their vocational track. So when we do ministry over there, it's usually connected with, say, medical, dental, social services, and there's also a physical therapy, a special education site. And so part of my duty as the team leader is to kind of schedule my week to go and meet the folks that come with us and kind of give them encouragement and see them in the context that they're ministering to. And so I go and I make my itinerary for the week, and I always schedule those things I really like to do. You know, I'm an artist and I love art, so that's pretty high on my list. And medical, I was blessed with a chance to deliver a baby one time. We just wouldn't do that in the U.S., but I'm in front and center, so it's craziness. But I love that. And always the last thing on my list is special ed, physical therapy. It's just a hard place for me to go. And I would avoid it fully if there wasn't a large number of our team that was part of that ministry. I'm a person who works in broken communities and work with broken people in those communities. It's just so hard in that context to see people physically broken. I'm a person who wants to fix them and I can't. And it's just, I hate to say this, but I almost hate to go to that place. But there was no way to avoid it this time. It's a place of gross runny noses, smells and sounds. When I did go there, it felt like I was trapped. My Spanish is not that good, but it made it all the harder with the slurring and just almost indiscernible sounds coming out. Most of their bodies were twisted and crippled physically in one way or another. There was one boy who I was introduced to by one of the team. I walked over and he was in his wheelchair, and I was introduced to him, and his name was Melvin. Melvin, he was the one who has cerebral palsy. His body is just crooked and twisted. It's just a spiteful disease. And I was standing next to him, and I was talking with that team member, and I could feel Melvin rubbing his hand against my arm. It's very hard to stand there. The team member asked if I would be willing to wheel Melvin around that afternoon. And I guess my silence was an affirmation. And then Melvin made some utterance that I couldn't discern, and that person said, "Oh, Melvin likes you," and proceeded to take off. I don't know,